get out, and the time was now.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, after 2 years, Sitting Down with Stand-Ups is officially back. A few things have changed. David Shank is now somewhere on an airplane serving drinks or something like that. Marco, unfortunately, has passed into the ether world, but he would have loved to have been here. But the important thing is, we are back now. I am one of your co-hosts, Justin Sakarica. We have the Bean behind the scene, Mr. Daryl Bean, and sitting next to me is my good friend Steve.
How's everyone doing? Nice to be back.
Yes. Well, we have a fantastic inaugural episode for you guys. Normally, we would get into what we've been doing right now, but we have much more important things to talk about. Standing over to my right is a WWE legend. He is a Hall of Famer. He is the first guy to ever win the Royal Rumble, and he is also now dabbling in comedy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the great Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh, hey brother, how you doing, man? How's it going?
Great. Thanks for
Steve,
being
how
here,
you doing? I got my 2x4, I got my lumber, old Hacksaw's ready to go.
Awesome.
I'm all fired up.
There you go. Awesome.
You know, I always ask, where I go big, whoa! I ask Steve Flair all the time, I'm like, Rick, how's your day? He's like, woo! I'm like, Rick, what you have for lunch? Woo! I'm like, brother, are your trunks too tight or what, man? It's more like a hoe.
There you go, yeah, because the hoe has more of a deep-chested thing going on, right?
But, Flair is Flair. That woo, woo works pretty good for him.
Yeah, I saw he had his last.
Well, you got to be careful
recently.
hoeing in Detroit. I found out.
Oh yeah,
I
exactly.
out there hoeing. A girl came up to $200.
Oh yeah, I know. Especially on Michigan Avenue, So that's more like 20
You give
bucks.
yourself away, brother.
So it's awesome to have you here, Jim. And obviously we're going to talk about a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of juicy stuff, but. Yeah, so now you're on the road telling some comedy stories, man. What made you get into that?
Well, Roddy Piper's the first guy that started doing it long ago, and it's not comedy as in telling jokes like Roddy Dangerfield or something.
Right.
It's more like wrestling stories, little anecdotes that happen on the road, which are actually quite comical, and a lot of folks enjoy that behind the scenes, and it's unbelievable the appeal of professional wrestling around the world, and in my 40 years, I wrestled every state in the Union, every province in Canada, including the Northwest Territory, in 30 different countries. It's crazy the appeal of wrestling.
Wow, man, yeah.
That's why I do a lot of charity events with the NFL guys, and I ask them, like, world champions? Where in the world do you fellas go? And they're like, well, we went to London.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's like going to the West Coast, go to London. I said,
right.
Nobody knows Tom Brady down in Christchurch, New Zealand, but they'll go, ho!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure anybody sees a 2x4 and an American flag, they're going to know who it is.
It's been good for me, nothing fancy, Dan, about Hacksaw Jim Duggan, just a 2x4 and the flag of the United States of America. Give me a ho, guys. Ho! That's some good hoeing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That is great hoeing. And, I think that's part of your appeal and why you're so popular is because you're like an everyman. You're just a blue-collar guy.
Yeah,
and everybody can relate to that,
I think that's what helped my longevity. A lot of folks don't realize is how competitive professional wrestling is. I meet a lot of young kids that go, hey, I want to be a wrestler. I said, if you look at it as a businessman, there's 1,500 NFL football players.
Right.
There's 500 NBA basketball players. There's 150 WWE, AEW wrestlers. It's a television show. It's more competitive than sports.
Sure.
And it's just not kids from America. You get kids from Japan and Australia and Europe. Everybody's coming over.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, well, you guys are all good friends, aren't you?
Oh shit.
Oh, yeah. We all compete for the same money. We're real good friends.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wrestling handshake goes like this. Nice to meet you.
The old knife in the back.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's some of that in comedy, too, believe it or not. Yeah, it's just...
any business.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And I joke, I said I thought wrestling promoters were bad until I dealt with comedy promoters.
Oh, yeah, you ain't kidding, man.
Holy
Seriously,
smokes.
yeah. It makes me wonder why you wanted to go from being body slammed and sat on by 500-pound guys to doing the cutthroat business of comedy.
Well, I enjoy being out there with the folks and talking to them and the fans.
Sure.
I mean, it's humbling. A lot of times, not long ago, I was in an autograph session, and I'm signing away, and I look, and there's this big, rough, tough-looking guy in the line, and he's eyeballing me pretty hard, and I'm checking on my security, and the guy's working his way through the line, finally gets to me. He grabs my Hacksaw Duggan, he puts the grippers on me. me and my dad, we used to watch it together to get
Oh
teary-eyed.
man, you got all sentimental on you?
It's humbling to have folks. I mean, people come up with the pictures of their mom or dad that they watched wrestling with back in the golden era, and remember us. Man, you try to think of a football player or a band from back in the '80s.
Oh shit, yeah, I can't even.
Hogan, Macho, Jake the Snake, Andre the Giant,
Yeah, oh man.
Junkyard Dog. You can still name 10 guys without thinking about it.
That's true, yeah. And I think it's because they're like larger than life characters, you know? It's like
I find, now that they have the WWE Network, a lot of young kids enjoy the golden age more than the current stuff. I do autographs with the current kids, and people are like, Hacksaw, any other wrestlers here? I'm like, yeah, this guy's a wrestler, that guy's a wrestler.
Yeah.
But then, where's Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
Yeah.
Right.
But, that was the golden age of wrestling, it really was.
Hey, speaking of, he's in town. He's in town with you, right? Or
Beefers will be. We're going to be in Flint at the really cool Comic-Con.
Right.
And I tell you, if you folks never been to a Comic-Con, they are great. There's something for everybody. I mean, you have wrestlers, movie stars, cosplay folks, and you see a kid in a movie quality costume, another kid with a box on his head.
Right.
But everybody's having fun.
Yeah, that'd be me, the guy with the box on his head, yeah.
I joke, I mean, even at the New York City Comic Con, it's jam-packed, hundreds of thousands of people, somebody bump in there and go, excuse me. You're like, wait a minute, I'm in New York City.
Right.
But Comic Cons are a lot of fun, a lot of friendly folks. They really
Oh yeah,
are.
that's
awesome.
yeah. I mean, I love going to them, and again, I know that my stepbrother Michael's doing great things with it as well. So
Yeah, they're fun, and they're worldwide too. We do them all over the world. It's really a lot of fun, and like the comedy. Actually, I went over to Scotland. I did the Fringe Festival.
Edinburgh. That's man.
Yes,
How was that?
That was great because that's the first time I did the same venue for a week straight. I did.
Okay.
I was there for the whole week.
Excellent.
And I did the same show, and it was a unique experience. I've been in the ring for 40 years. I played football. I had an athletic career, but totally different standing up there on stage with the folks right there and trying to get them. But usually if it's not a wrestling crowd, they're like, "What is this all about?" But thank goodness it's usually a wrestling crowd, and then we do a nice Q&A after, and folks have some very knowledgeable questions.
Sure.
Like baseball fans, somebody knows statistics, batting averages.
Right.
Somebody knows all that stuff about wrestling too.
Yeah, I bet you they have all types of shit that'll blow your mind. You're like, wait,
Oh,
how did you?
they're like in
How do you remember this?
in '85, you wrestled Junkyard Dog at the Superdome. I'm like, yeah.
you're like, sure, I believe you. I guess
It was the '80s.
Yeah.
Because people back, especially my generation of guys try to compare us to sports teams. My group of guys, we were more like a rock and roll band. You're flying all over the world, a different city, different country, a lot of booze, a lot of women, a lot of drugs.
So it sounds like
God,
I
I
should
miss the old days.
Yeah, I should have been a wrestler, not a comedian, man.
But a lot of guys got caught up in that lifestyle, and that's why you see so many guys that have had trouble with drugs and other problems in wrestling.
Yeah.
Everybody sees the dark side of the ring with one of my best friend Jake the Snake Roberts or Scott Hall. I'm the opposite side of the coin. I've been with my wife for 38 years.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. I never had to go to rehab for booze or drugs. I did a lot of both.
Yeah.
I can't throw no stones. I was A to Z, but I just never got hooked on it. I joke, I say no felony arrest. A few misdemeanors, but it was the 80s. What the hell?
Yeah.
But it's been a great business for me. I put 2 daughters through school, and here at 68 years old, I'm still traveling the world signing autographs and meeting the folks. It's
Amazing, man.
Been a great business.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Now here it is, and the career just keeps popping off. Now you're doing this, the comedy, and that sounds like it's amazing. Already doing a Fringe Festival. Shit, what's been one of your most outstanding experiences since you've been on the comedy stage?
Well, I did my hometown. I'm from a small little town in upstate New York called Glens Falls, up closer to Montreal than New York City, and they have a bigger venue in downtown Glens Falls that I sold out. You know, as a kid, that would be such a big deal just to perform there.
Right.
And to come into my hometown, and we sold it out early and had a lot of folks there. So that was exciting to do it at home.
And so Glen Falls, that's you played football there.
Yeah, actually, I had a great high school career. You know, a lot of folks you hear grew up in horrible conditions. You know, and had this rough upbringing. I joke. I said I grew up in Mayberry. You know, I had 3 loving, caring sisters, older sisters. My dad was chief of police in the town. My mom was a very supportive family, and I had a good sports career. I was the first guy from Glens Falls ever to win the New York State Wrestling Championship, unlimited weight class. I was undefeated my senior year. My shot put record still stands today from 1973.
Wow, man!
I'm like, get those kids some Cheerios up there.
Yeah.
It's not that good of a toss. Somebody should have broken. But football was my main sport. So I was highly recruited to Ohio State with Woody Hayes.
Yeah, Woody Hayes. Mention that.
Yeah, Paterno at Penn State. Yeah, but I ended up playing my college ball for Southern Methodist,
right.
SMU in Dallas, Texas. And just on a fluke, when I was down there in SMU, I met Fritz von Erich. And he says, you know, kid, you might be a good wrestler. And I'm like, thanks, but I'm going to be playing in the NFL for 10 years. And I blew Fritz off.
Whoa.
You know? And so I went to the Falcons in '77 in preseason. I got hurt. I had 2 knee surgeries. I hung around. I went up to Canada in '78 as an offensive guard, a dime a dozen, you know. I'm like, well, let me give that Fritz guy a call.
Yeah.
And of course, back then, if you weren't somebody's son, if you weren't involved with, you wouldn't get into wrestling. Now everybody's a wrestler.
Yeah.
I got a wrestling school. I want to be a wrestler. Back then, it was a closed.
Seemed like it was a family thing.
A very close society. So that was a big, huge deal for Fritz to open up the door and give me the gift of professional wrestling.
Right.
I mean, and of course, I started off as Big Jim Duggan.
Big Jim Duggan.
I had short hair and clean shaven, and I wore a long gold bathrobe to the ring.
I've got one upstairs right now, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, man, my long gold bathroom. The neighbors hate it, but I love it.
But it was, you know, because I played football, and, you know, you got 10 other guys around you, you got your helmet, shoulder pads, the fans are 50 yards away. All of a sudden, you're wrestling, you're in the ring, the people are right there, and you're in a pair of short shorts and patent leather boots. You know, you feel like a stripper standing.
Oh, yeah.
I was nervous as I could be. I used to twist my mustache. I just had a mustache. And so I worked in Texas for a little while, and I went up and I worked for Vince McMahon Sr., the WWWF.
Ah.
So you can find Big Jim doing jobs for Hogan and Ken Patera. The first big thing I tried to do was get out of the Cobra Clutch.
Yeah.
You know, so they called me in the office, Vince Sr. and Arnie Skolin. You know, back then everybody's smoking cigars, and the room's all cigar. They're like, kid, you might have a future, but come up with something better than Big Jim and get rid of that gold bathrobe.
Oh, not the gold bathroom, man.
Oh, I still got it.
Good.
So they said,
yeah.
we're going to send you out to learn how to wrestle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where are you going to send me? He said, we're going to send you to Hawaii. I'm like, probably a young kid, you know, 25 years old. I'm like, great. So I went on and I worked for High Chief Peter Maivia. You know, so I like to say I worked with The Rock's grandfather, High Chief Peter Maivia. Yeah. I worked with The Rock's father, Rocky Johnson. And I may get The Rock at WrestleMania. Ho!
My money's on Hacksaw.
No chance in hell.
No, my money's on you, man.
Yeah. So over in Hawaii, I wore a mask and I wrestled as the convict. Because I'm wrestling grown, you know, I'm a young kid. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a baby-faced kid. They're like, put a mask on, you know. And so I think that's why they did it. That might have been another reason, yeah. But anyway, so I, you know, a young guy trying to spice things up. I had my mask. I put little C's on my mask for the convict.
Yeah.
And the fans are like, convict, why'd you put those ears on your mask? I said they're not ears, they're C's for the convict. So that didn't work. So then I went to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I went back to Big Jim Duggan. Then I went to Pensacola. I became Wild Man Duggan. I wore fur with chains on it.
I didn't know about that.
And then I went to San Antonio, and that's where I got my big break and became Hacksaw Jim Duggan, working with Bruiser Brody. And got the 2x4 and all that. Because, you know, back then, it was long before sports entertainment. You think it's fake? You want to try one of the wrestlers? Come on up in the ring. We'll show you if it's fake or not. So you had to fight every local tough guy, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, we had Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and CAH. Roll around with Doc a little bit, see how you do. And Doc would stretch him. But just getting back and forth in the ring was dangerous, you know. The people spit at you and punch you and kick you. They really hated your guts. So you'd walk out to the car, you'd walk out in a group because they'd be waiting out there.
Yeah.
So I'm in like Lubbock, Texas, Amarillo, sitting back in the dressing room, all covered with loogies and bruises.
Oh, Jesus.
From the fans, you know.
It sounds like my last stand-up show.
Rethinking that's rethinking my career choice, you know, if this is what I wanted to do. And Bruiser Brody came in. And Brody's like, Duggan, he says, if you carry something to the ring, carry something you can use. Forget those feathered boas and sequin robes. Right? So I'm sitting there in Amarillo, I look down, I'm like, well, here's a piece of wood. And I picked up a 2x4. I came out yelling, waving that 2x4. It was like parting the Red Sea. Then people scattered. I got to the ring. I'm like, this is great. You know? Of course, one time, though, I got a big, nasty splinter in my thumb. A big, nasty splinter. And I went, oh! No?
Maybe work that one on open mics. Yeah, that's
Let's talk about the Rat Pack for a minute.
Okay, sure. Right. Yeah, that was coming back. Any of the second generation guys in wrestling, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ted DiBiase, Kurt Hennig, the Von Erichs, they grew up in the ring. You know, Ted and Jake were in the ring at 15. So I was 25. It was a hard transition for me coming out of football to learn wrestling. But they teamed me up with DiBiase and Matt Bourne in Mid-South. Okay. And we were the Rat Pack. We were a heel group.
Doink the Clown.
And Doink the Clown, not my favorite person.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that.
But anyway, I learned a lot from Ted. Like I said, he's the second generation guys. I learned an awful lot from Ted. Of course, we did one of the best angles in the world down there, the gorilla suit. I don't know if you guys see the gorilla. We got a big loser leave town, Junkyard Dog versus Ted DiBiase. And of course, Dog is the main marquee guy. There's no way Dog's going to leave the territory. So we come up with this angle where I'm out in front of the TV studio with a complete gorilla outfit on. I got makeup on, I got gorilla hands and mask, I got a bunch of balloons. Right? And the fans, they're like, Gorilla, you want to come to the matches? And I'm like, ooh. And so they bring me in, and so the whole show, whole TV show, I'm cheering on the good guys. Yay! Finally, it's Junkyard Dog and DiBiase right in there battling. Dog takes the bump out of the ring, and I jump over and I brush him off. He turns around, boom! I hit him in the back of the head. I run his head into the post. I pull that gorilla mask off. The people are like, oh, it's Duggan! It's cockeyed Duggan! And I would get mad about the cockeyed deal, but I'd be like, it's Duggan, it ain't Duggan. D-U-G-G-A-N, 2 G's. Yeah. But, yeah, that was some great angles down there. Wrestle 10 to 12 times a week. You do double shots. You wrestle twice at TV, and you do an individual interview for every town. So you learned your trade, not only in the ring, but learned how to talk on camera too.
So you mentioned you're not a fan of Doink the Clown. You want to explain to everybody why? Why that is?
Doink and I, we have had a history before, and of course the guy's passed, so it's hard to say much about him. But yeah, we had trouble in Mid-South. And, you know, Matt is not as big as I am, so that kind of says how that went.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we had it carry over a little bit years later, but it's hard to talk about that with Matt being gone.
Gotcha, we'll move on.
Yeah, but that's like I said, people say, you guys are all good friends. I said, no, you have a couple of friends, a lot of acquaintances, and a couple of enemies.
Yeah.
And it's a physical business. You know, people say, I saw you throw a punch, Doug, and you missed the guy by that much. I said, yeah, but you see when I hit him by that much. It goes both ways, brother.
Right.
No, yeah, it's, I mean, you know, it's kind of the same thing again in comedy. You know, you got some friends, and then there's some people that don't like you, and then there's some people that go around, you know, spitting in people's faces, and, you know. Yeah.
He was blasting you earlier, brother. I don't want to say that.
No, that Justin guy. Wait till we get...
I see what you mean, too.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude. So cool.
Yeah.
Now this is a question.
Can't tell you that story.
All right. Any connection between the Hacksaw Butch Reed?
No, not really. Butch and I know each other. Of course, we were bound down in Mid-South. You know, it's a small group of wrestlers. We all kind of know each other.
Okay.
And we had the Battle of the Hacksaws and all that in the Mid-South. But when he went up to New York, he changed his gimmick and went to the natural. And, dyed his hair blonde, but Hacksaw is still Hacksaw. You know?
Right. Awesome, man.
I'll tell you Jake the Snake story.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, you know, because, you know, Jake, back in the WrestleMania, when WrestleMania 1 came, we were all down in Mid-South. Vince came, he grabbed Junkyard Dog, and Dog went up for WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania 2 came by, he grabbed Jake. Jake went up. Jake called me. He says, Duggan, this is the place to be. I went up for WrestleMania 3. DiBiase's like, I can't go up to New York. You know, Jake the Snake, Hacksaw Duggan, Junkyard Dog. I'm Ted DiBiase. Ted goes up, gets the best gimmick of anybody, the $1 Million Man.
Oh, yeah.
Has Virgil driving around. But so I first get up to TV, and it's pretty intimidating. When you WWF TV, there's probably 18 to 20 18-wheelers out back, limousines, buses, TV trucks. You know, when we get there at TV, and they do 3 hours of TV, it takes all day. My first day at TV, right? So I was on the second hour, and I get done. I'm sitting in the back, and Jake comes up. He goes, Duggan, you done? I'm like, yeah. He says, well, let's go. I'm like, you sure it's okay to leave? The show's not over. Come on, let's go, get in the car. We're getting in the car, and we're driving down the road. We're about a half hour down the road, and Jake looks over and goes, man, I can't believe you left TV on your first day.
Wow.
I'm like, Jake, you told me it was okay. You know, so that starts the ribbon. So we're just a couple of weeks later, we're in Chicago at the Rosemont Horizon. You know, we were main event. Jake and I were in a tag team. Took a shower, took our time getting ready to leave, and there's this whole bank of doors. You know, we went to open the doors to go out, and there's still maybe 200 people out there, and you can see the limo on the far side of the people, but the people like, oh, they're all rabid, you know. So we pull the doors closed, and you know, Jake's like, what are we gonna do, hacker?
Hacker?
And so I said, 1, 2, 3, brother, we'll open the door, we'll fight through the people, I'll meet you at the car. He goes, I'm with you, brother. Okay, 1, 2, 3, we opened the door, Jake went out, I pulled the door closed behind him.
Oh, no, you got his ass back.
I gave him about a 5 count, I snuck out, I went all the way around, I'm sitting in the limo waiting for Jake, you know. He comes in, the people are pulling on his hair, but if you travel with Jake, that means you got to travel with Damien, you know, the 10-foot, 120-pound python he had drug. Thank God he ate 2x4 as much as I walk in the arena. I was like, can somebody find me a 2x4 and get him a 10-foot python? You know, he had to drag that snake around wherever he goes. But we were out in like Mississippi, Louisiana, late for a show. You know, we had a big rented Lincoln Town car. We're driving, but we had a great idea back then. If you're going to be late, be so late that they're happy to see you. Thank God you made it instead of where the hell you been.
Yeah.
Thank God you guys made the show, you know. So we're flying down the road and the snake's in the back seat in the bag. And the snake would always try to get out of the bag, always try. And boom, now the snake's out of the bag. I'm driving down the road, looking in the mirror. The big, huge snake head over my shoulder.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So I felt like Harry Potter. And people are like, well, you know, it's a python. It's not poisonous. I says, no, but it's got a mouth like that. It'll definitely bite your ass, you know.
Yeah.
Grab the wheel.
So I slam on the brakes and we go sliding into like a Cracker Barrel restaurant. All the people are in the rocking chairs. The kids are playing. Like, we come sliding. Jake and I jump out of the car. We pull open the back door. We grab this snake. We're fighting with the snake. We stuff it in the bag and we drive off. So you know this day people are going, you're not going to believe it? These two guys had a giant snake in the back of their car.
They probably got like a big mural on it, like back in 1982 in this parking lot here at this very Cracker Barrel.
You left someone with some stories of untold stories. That is hilarious. Oh my God.
Oh man, I don't like. I'm not terrified of snakes, but if I'm driving and I can't like defend myself, I'm shitting my pants.
I travel with Jake a lot. We got to get used to this.
Yeah, I was gonna say it must take some getting used to because I'm skittish around snakes from the beginning. So I know it would take a long time for me to get,
it's a
used to that.
big, strong python. It's amazing how powerful they are.
How much do you think that snake weighed?
Oh yeah. And he would. It wouldn't be the same snake. They rotate the snakes. And of course, they did the deal where Macho did the deal with the cobra. Remember Macho?
Oh yeah,
right. I remember.
Let me tell you this story, guys.
Here we go.
So now we're back in the dressing room, you know, and of course, back in the day, everybody used to play cards, you know, and to kill time because you got all day to kill. You know how TV is. But Vince finally said, "No more cards. You can't play cards anymore."
The hell?
Actually, there's a kind of good reason for it.
You'd
be back there playing cards. No, you'd be back there playing cards. You'd be like, dun da dun da dun da dun da dun. Is that my music? Shit, that's my music! Oh! So yeah, pay attention to the show. But anyway, so now they bring in. They said, "We're going to bring in a cobra." So we're all there playing cards, and Albert was the snake guy. And Albert comes in with a bag. He goes, "I got the cobra," and everybody's like, "Cobra, schmobra, gin." You know, so he throws the snake out of the bag. Well, the darn cobra stands up about this high. The hood comes out.
Right.
Now everybody's like, "Oh, cobra! That's a cobra, all right. That's a big ass cobra too."
Wow.
So we're like, "Albert, put the snake back in the bag." So Albert's shaking his hand. You know, he's going to catch the snake. The snake's watching his hands. The snake's shaking. He reaches around with the other hand. The snake turns around. Oh! Bites him right on the hand. Of course, it was devenomized.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize this. You know, most snakes strike, right? Cobras bite and they hang on.
Do they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so they're assholes.
Yes, yes, because they don't have big fangs, they hang on. So now this guy's got about a 10-foot cobra on his hand going, "Ow! Ow!" I said, "You want to talk about a battle royal?" Everybody's heading for the door at the same time, and then Andre come through. Oh! Right. Excuse me. So now everything calms down. We all get back in the dressing room, and I look in the bathroom, and I see in the bathroom stall, I see these white boots, JYD on the boots. This junkyard dog is deathly afraid of snakes. He's
Really?
hiding in the stall the whole time, hiding.
Oh, he was in there hiding.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
So I took my belt off, I threw it under the stall. Snake! Dog come running
man.
up. Well, now DiBiase goes over to Macho. You know Macho, God bless him. You know, Macho, he was, what you saw on TV was the way Macho was. He was an intense guy. He was like, "Yeah, all right, brother, you got a water there? I'll have a water too." You know, when Joey'd go into McDonald's, he'd be like, "I'll have a milkshake, fries, and a burger." Oh, yeah. Snap into it. So Macho, everybody's got a Macho impersonation.
Oh, yeah.
Most impersonated guy ever was. Great wrestler. But anyway, so now Macho is in the dressing room. So DiBiase comes up to him and he's like, "You know, Mach, I'm not sure they can get all the poison out of a cobra." "Oh, brother, what do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, it is. Sometimes there's usually a little venom left in those cobras. They don't get it." "You're kidding me, brother, right? No." I said, "How?" Macho goes over to Jake. He goes, "Hey, Jake, I want the snake to bite you first." So Jake's like, "What? We're getting ready to go on the show. What the hell are you talking about?" "No, let the snake bite you. Don't take no antidote or nothing, right?" So Jake holds his arm out. The snake bites his arm, and Jake's like, "Okay, no antidote." Right, so they play Macho's music. Macho goes to the ring. Jake takes a snake, puts the snake in the bag. Macho's in the ring. Jake takes the bag, holds the bag up. Boom, 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 boom to the bag. Now the snake's like, "Ah!" They get to the ring. They throw the snake out of the bag. The snake flies across the ring, bites Macho in the arm. Blood goes flying everywhere.
I remember, oh man.
Great television.
I remember watching that as a kid. I'm like, "See, I told you wrestling is real. The snake is biting him." That
That's the
freaked me
deal.
out.
You're
yeah.
always a phony wrestler until you go to court.
Ah.
When you go to court, it's like, "He's a wrestler, Your Honor. He's a killer." The old wrestling joke goes like this: 10, 20, 30,000. Every time you hit him, that lawsuit goes up. You know, like, "I'm going to sue you." I said, "I'm getting my money's worth. We're not done, brother." Now you go out with, you know, with security a lot of times. You meet 100 folks. 99 are cool, but you know, you want to arm wrestle me, Hacksaw? I'm like, "No, shoot. I pull a hamstring, I get off the chair quick."
Could you explain what?
No.
What's ball busting already? Our first time back
Exactly,
in years.
yeah.
We get this guy busted our
We're
balls.
starting off right where we ended.
Not that you're throwing softballs up, though, brother.
Kayfabe. That my saying right? Kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
All right. You want to explain to the people what? What's
kayfabe,
that?
like, well, there's a lot to it. It's
Okay.
That's the deal of where you act different around regular people. Say if we were wrestlers, we're all talking in the what was Steve, right?
Daryl.
That's
Daryl. Yeah, Daryl. Yeah. Got you mixed up. Yeah. The beers threw me. But, you know, somebody would walk in and you guys didn't see him. I'd go, "Kayfabe," and you'd know something's up. Kayfabe is not riding together. It's nowadays it's kind of different than it was in the old age. But yeah, kayfabe was smarting guys up. Something's wrong. You know, "Hey, kayfabe, brother, it's over there."
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. I think I follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just like a warning. It'd just be a warning. You know,
Okay.
hey, kayfabe, brother. We don't talk about that, man. There's, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was a.
Like
Like what? Wait,
There's
staying
another
in,
word for
like
that,
staying in
too,
character,
but-
kind of like, you know? Like, isn't kayfabe kind of staying in character and, you know, kind
No,
of...
it doesn't have to be character, because you can be out at a restaurant or out anywhere and say, hey, kayfabe. Or
Okay.
even my wife knows kayfabe.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Some of you don't want to talk in front of somebody, hey, kayfabe.
I
And speak Carney, Kiazarni.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Language.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
I tell you, wrestling terminology, you look at it, it's in mainstream now. Work, people sell stuff, you know.
Sure, you're
guys
right,
working
right.
me. A lot of the terminology now is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that. Yeah, the kayfabe thing. Totally. Yeah, I had a.
Mix it up, yeah, same here,
totally,
yeah.
For sure, man. Shit. What? WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania 3, 93,000 people, Pontiac Silverdome,
Right by me.
largest
Yeah.
indoor crowd for anything, and it was a huge push for me. I ran down in between, it was Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik against the Killer Bees, and I ran down, I hit the Sheik, I hit Nikolai, I was standing in the ring with 93,000 people chanting USA. I mean, what a
No, it's gotta be
thrill
incredible.
of a lifetime. I mean,
Right.
it's unbelievable. Of course, I came back to the dressing room and everybody's like, Duggan, how's the crowd out there? I'm like, well, without my glasses, the first 3 rows are full.
It sounds loud.
It's pretty
Yeah.
loud out there.
Wow.
But yeah, it's unbelievable the venues that we do. Wembley Stadium, I mean, it's Royal Albert Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
I mean, that's just like a literal sea of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, and
Well, it's a good show. I find most of the folks who are critical of professional wrestling, never been or never really watched it. They form an opinion. 90% of the time you come out, you know, you cheer the good guy, you boo the bad guy. It's a fun night out. Or you go sit in a movie for 3 hours.
Right.
yeah.
Did you have anything?
So yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Iron Sheik. Now, I would love to meet the Iron Sheik in person.
No, well, me and Sheik are married in infamy, obviously, with that bust
Yes.
we had years ago. And of course, the worst thing about it, people assume that me and the Sheik are friends. So it's not the case. I gave the guy a ride one time, but I take responsibility. I'm over 21. And excuse me. A story: we flew into Newark, New Jersey. We were wrestling in Asbury Park that night. And Sheik said, "Maybe you give me a ride, Duggan." I said, "Yeah, I'll give you a ride. What the hell? Jump in, brother." And he says, "Maybe we get some St. Pauli Girl beer." I'll never drink another St. Pauli Girl beer as long as I live, right? I lived in Louisiana at the time that has drive-through daiquiri huts. You know, this is in the early 80s, right? So we're on the Garden State Parkway, and I had a little weed with me, and I said, "Gee, Sheiky, we'll burn a little doobage." And we burned it, so I'm sipping on this St. Pauli Girl beer, and I go by a New Jersey State Trooper. You know, why? He goes, not illegal. So the trooper pulls me over. He goes, "Well, you're drinking while driving." I said, "Yes, sir, but I'm not drunk." He says, "It's illegal in New Jersey." I'm like, "Oh, it's not in Louisiana."
Yeah, whoops, wrong state.
So then he's like, "Well, do you have anything you want to tell me about?" And my dad was a cop. I've always have good relationships with police. I said, "Yes, sir. There's a small amount of marijuana under my seat. Figure you might take it away from me." Out of the car, feet back and spread them. Oh. And they, now they pull the Sheik out and they got him up against the car. Of course, people. This is right after WrestleMania 3. People driving the gun and started picking away. There's Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik. So the Sheik ended up having 3 grams of cocaine. So he had a felony arrest. I had a misdemeanor because I had, less than a half ounce of pot. Got a couple doobies and drinking while driving. But Sheik had to get bonded out in front of a judge. But we still made the show that night. We wrestled in Asbury Park. And this was before the internet or nothing, so we didn't tell nobody. So I called my wife. I said, "Honey," that night I called her. I said, "We got arrested, but nobody knows about it." She calls me about 6 o'clock the next morning. Everybody knows.
Oh, shit.
Everybody. And so my first call was to my dad, God bless him, who was my best man at my wedding, best man I've ever met. And he's like, "Did you get arrested for cocaine?" I said, "No, sir, I got arrested for marijuana." He said, "No, sooner or later." He chewed my butt a little bit. But then my family really rallied around me because I realized what a huge blow it was to my career. I was lucky to survive it professionally. Anyway, my next call was to Vince McMahon. And never have I gotten through so quick to my life as Vince. Usually on hold for 5 minutes. I'm like, Jim Duggan for Vince McMahon. Click, click, Jim? And remember to the day I die what he said to me verbatim. He goes, Jim, what have you done to us?
Oh,
that's
yeah,
and I said,
that's a deep cut.
Yeah, I said, Vince, I'm embarrassed and ashamed. He says, turn in your tickets and go home, because back then we had a big stack of airplane tickets, you know. And I had to turn in my tickets, and I flew home, and I went nuts for a while. I was lucky my wife stayed with me. I went crazy, chopping down trees, bunny rabbits, whatever. And Jake, you know, Drake tried to smooth it over with Vince, you know, and so Jake called me, oh, you're screwed.
No,
You're not coming back. And so I waited a couple of weeks and finally got my head back on straight. And I said, well, I got to go back to work. So I called Dusty down in WCW instead of meeting up to fly to Atlanta. But before I flew down to Atlanta, WWF called me back up and said, you know, don't do nothing drastic. We're going to bring you back. And they brought me back, but they never put the big gas on me. You know, I was never world champion. I was never tag team champion, intercontinental champion. Really hamstringed my career, that bust. You know, not the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life, but it's up there pretty good.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks for bringing it up, brother.
Oh, no.
Could have been so much worse, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
but you know, like I said, it was the 35th anniversary. A&E came to my house and did a special
really?
on it.
Really?
So of all the things we're remembered by, but
Man.
me and the Sheik. Of course, the biggest feather in my cap, I guess, is winning that first Royal Rumble. I was, even though I was never champion, because I tell folks, we're not all lead singers in the band. Hogan's up there lead singing. I'm back there playing the drums for 40 years.
Yeah.
It was a very good spot to be in. You know?
Yeah,
I
it's
beat
steady
everybody.
work.
The guys that beat me would go on to Hulkster. So it's been a good spot to be in.
That's excellent. That's comes a long way from Gino Hernandez, man.
Gino was a good man, and
Yeah.
a big Jim Duggan he took under his wing and showed me around. But that went full circle. When I was in Mid-South, Gino was having his drug problems.
Okay.
And he came, stayed with me. But gorgeous Gino Hernandez, what a handsome man he was.
With a name like Gorgeous, I
And
yeah.
the girls loved him, man. He was back then the disco stuff. Yeah.
Did he also have a gold robe, or did he get rid of that? Already?
No, he had the gold change though. Back
the gold,
then.
yeah.
The razor cut hair back in the deal. But you know what? I tell you, speaking of, I was telling you about the Royal Rumble, the thing everybody says, well, that's your biggest, what you remember most in wrestling. That's my biggest professional accomplishment. And nobody was more surprised in that building than me to win that Royal Rumble. But you know, as what I remember most in wrestling as a young kid, I'm from upstate New York, as I was saying, Glens Falls. My dad would bring me and my three sisters down to New York City to Madison Square Garden to see the circus, you know. So you can only imagine that as an adult, I'd pick up my dad, drive to New York City, and pull up in front of Madison Square Garden and see Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Andre the Giant.
Oh man!
You know, dream of a lifetime, a double whammy. You know, be main event at the Garden is great, but to be main event in there with Andre the Giant, I mean, it was really, no matter what profession you're in, the arts, ballet, whatever, you sell out the Garden, you sell out the Garden.
That's it, yeah.
No, we can't get higher than that.
Yeah. I mean, like, can you describe just how big he actually was? Because I don't think people can really grasp.
No, well, nowadays there's a lot of 7-foot guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of basketball. But back in Andre's day, you know, 7'2", 500 pounds, tough life for the man. It was very inconvenient. He couldn't fit into a shower. He'd sit on a toilet. Sometimes a toilet break. He couldn't fit on an airplane. You know, imagine he went to Japan a lot.
Yeah, right. Everything's accustomed to the size of their people. So.
And just how do you fly, you know, 14, 15 hours without going? He can't fit in the bathroom on the airplane. There ain't no way. I mean, but I had a good rapport with Andre because as a young guy over in Hawaii working for Maivia as a convict, all the top guys would go to Japan. And on the way back, they stop in Hawaii and spend a week or two and work for Maivia. So I got to work with the top guys as a really young kid. So Andre remembered me as a convict. So later on, he let me knock him out. I mean, if you remember Saturday Night Main Event, Andre standing in the middle of the ring goes, "I challenge anyone." Like, Duggan, get your 2x4. So I run down, I got my chin on Andre's belly. I'm looking up at him like, I'm not afraid of you. And Andre, he went to grab me, if it's on YouTube and everything, but his thumb hit my lip. and just knocked my lip off. My lip just fell down like that, man.
Ooh.
Now blood is just pouring. It actually worked out great because blood is just pouring down my chest, just cascading down my chest. And Andre's got me by the throat. He's choking me down. He's choking me down. I feel around. I get the 2x4. I hit Andre the Giant between the eyes. He goes down like a huge redwood tree. WWF goes off the air. Me standing over Andre the Giant covered in blood. Ho! And that elevated me from a mid-card guy to a main event guy. And Andre wouldn't do that if he didn't want to. So that was a big favor. That was a big favor he did for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard stories that if he liked you, he liked you, but if he didn't like you, man, that's bad news.
Yeah. Is there a lot of guys, like, what was an example of a guy that Andre had, like, personal beef with, or just someone?
John Studd. He didn't like Big John
Really?
Studd.
Didn't like Big John Studd?
He chased Bam Bam Bigelow out of the ring.
Did he really?
Yeah, he would just be so heavy-handed with you. He could hurt you easily. Yeah, he put an egg through his ring. He used to choke. He'd choke me. I'd grab 2 of his fingers like that.
Wow. Man, you guys were all so big too, so I can't even imagine.
Yeah, size is all relative.
Like
back when I wrestled probably 280 most of the time. But that's what I tell folks. Even back then, they go, "Well, you're a big guy." I'm like, "No, you should see the big guys."
Yeah.
You know, you stand next to the Big Show, or you stand next to Rey Mysterio. It just depends who you stand next to where you're at.
And speaking of big guys, you also had a little bit of an angle with Yokozuna.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Now,
in fact, any of the big guys, Yoko.
Yeah.
I wrestle a lot of the bigger guys.
And you mentioned earlier, you know, like sometimes you punch a little bit too far away, other times you go all the way through. When Yokozuna was giving you bonsai drops, did it run through your head like how scary?
Well, yeah, he missed
He missed?
Yeah, he missed in Houston. He broke 2 of my ribs.
Oh.
Yeah. It's, Mr. Fuji put the Japanese flag over me, and he couldn't see where he was. And so.
Yeah, so like you just showed up to work that day and like, yeah, by the way, this 600-pound guy's gonna sit on you 4 or 5 times. Good luck.
Yeah, but you know, when you get to that level, those guys are the best in the world at what they do. They're the best professional wrestlers. They're professionals, you know. And, I joke, who's the hardest person to work with? Some young kid on the Independent show. You know, he's 6'5", 300 pounds. He's like, "Mr. Duggan, are we on TV tonight?" I'm like, "I hope not, kid." Try to relax out there. It's a big crowd. What, 200-300 people? I'm like, oh my God. Where's my 2x4?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we all started somewhere. That's
absolutely, yeah. It's the same thing with comedy, you know, like you start somewhere doing shows in these little dive bars and, you know, you just got to keep working and grinding at it, and then eventually, you know, you get that good set or that good match that works, and you build upon that.
Yeah.
You know, you start meeting people, you start meeting the right bookers, and then, you know, bam, you're off to the races. And, like, what do you think the biggest similarity between stand-up comedy, or at least the comedy you do, and wrestling is?
I think just being in front of the people and feeling comfortable. I mean, that was a hard adjustment for me to make from football to wrestling. But from wrestling to comedy wasn't that big of a difference because we used to do interviews and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you cut an interview and you'd have a live audience in front of you.
Gotcha.
So that's, and like I said, my sisters are like, "You work so hard, you're doing 5 of these comedy shows." I'm like, these people are happy to see me. They come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like working in a salt mine.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. But yeah, I mean, I just, I do think that there are a lot of similarities between professional wrestling and comedy, and people just, they don't understand. And it's like you mentioned earlier, like some people don't really have an appreciation for pro wrestling, but again, you're working the crowd, you're trying to get them on your side, you want their attention, you want them laughing at you or cheering for you.
You want them interacting, yes.
Absolutely.
And you want them sitting on their hands, yeah.
Yeah. And you want to make a good first impression. And for you to go out there with the American flag and the 2x4 and yell, "Ho!" That's,
that's my deal. If you, like Brody told me years ago, if you're going to be a wrestler, be a wrestler like those football players, like I had a good game and he had a good game, and I hope I have a good game next week. If you're going to be a wrestler, you're going to say what you're going to do, who you're going to do it to, and what time the show starts, tough guy. Give me a ho, brother. Ho! I don't think you were hoeing. Security.
Get him out of here. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, that's incredible, man. Yeah, I mean, just so happy, living life, out there doing your thing,
I enjoy it, yeah. Life is good, man. And, of course, I've been going through my cancer ordeal. I just finished 8 weeks of radiation. And I used to throw that out to folks, 1 in 8 women will have breast cancer. 1 in 6 men will have prostate cancer. The odds of you having prostate cancer sometime in your life are pretty high, so get your physicals, get your PSA checked. That's what saved my life, just a PSA test.
Yeah, I just had one recently, man. So.
Good. Yep.
Yeah.
All clear. They had some polyps. Got them out of there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I should probably go get checked myself pretty soon here, so.
There's a joke there, but no.
Yeah.
We'll keep it a family show.
Oh, yeah, this is no family show, trust me. Pretty far from it, actually.
Yeah.
Well, you got anything else, Steve, or?
You know what, man? I think we've gone through all of my stuff. You answered all of my questions, so you know, I'll just stay, man. You know, we got anything else we wanna throw at them, or?
I just want to say thank you again, man. Seriously, man.
Well, my pleasure. I enjoyed it very
man.
much, guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, this is a great way to start off sitting down with stand-ups, the relaunch.
But before we go, you know, we got to do one together. And if you're going to ho like you mean it. So lean in there, fellas.
Right, yeah.
Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Ho!
Thanks for watching.